Go ahead and get started. Apologies for my technological issues and lack of video, but thank you all so much for tuning in today. I'm really excited to be diving into this incredible call with everyone. So a bit of background information. Oh, good. I'm glad I sound better now. A bit of background information on Dannie. She is a marketing strategist who works as an account representative at Google by day, and by night, she runs her own marketing consulting firm. And she's also the founder of the Side Hustle Gal movement and the author of the corresponding book and the co-host of the corresponding podcast. And to top it all off, Dannie has the most epic email auto response ever. It's linked up in the Life and More group. And if you haven't seen it yet, you definitely need to go check it out because it's such an inspiring example of the importance of setting healthy and thoughtful boundaries, because that's how we can ultimately show up for ourselves and others fully. So thank you so much, Dannie, for taking the time to host this call. We know how valuable your time is, and we are so grateful to be able to learn from you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm, just for everyone's context, I'm located in Chicago and my apartment is 10 stories above an L line. So if you hear the train, that's why. But I'm going to walk through some SEO basics from a deck that I use a lot when I'm speaking at conferences. And then I have the list of topics that folks shared when you all registered. And there will be a couple points for questions while I'm walking through this deck that I usually use. And then I'll walk through those questions one by one that didn't get answered when I was walking through the deck. And that can kind of just be like a free-for-all Q&A session once we get to that part. Cool? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let me know if you can't see Google Slides, but we should be good. So I'm going to start by just walking through some tools that you should have if you're focusing on SEO. So the left-hand side of this screen walks through those tools. Google Search Console is a Google free product that helps you manage your sitemap and tells Google and the other search engines to crawl your site, and then B, to help kind of control how your website shows up in search results. And I'm going to dig deeper into these tools once I go through like SEO in general, but I want people to have a list of tools to start. Google Analytics is the one that you've probably all heard of. It's the way that you check your analytics in terms of who's visiting your site, what pages they're visiting, when people bounce. You can also use it to cross-reference with your on-platform analytics. So like if you're on WordPress or SEO, those tools will give you, WordPress or Squarespace, those tools will give you analytics as well, but it's not always up to date. So I use Google Analytics as my source of truth. For those folks specifically on WordPress, or if you're on a Showit website with a WordPress blog, Yoast is a really good tool. It's a plugin that you add to WordPress, and it essentially takes SEO and turns it into a red, yellow, green game. You choose a keyword that's important to you for that page, and it makes sure that all of the elements of SEO for that page are optimized to that keyword. Red being, no, you got a lot of work to do. Yellow/orange being, you're doing pretty okay. And green being, yep, this looks really good from an SEO standpoint. Neil Patel's backlinks tool helps you see where your backlinks are coming from and how good your backlinks are, how many domains are providing your backlinks. And then as well, what's your domain authority, which we're going to talk about all of those things shortly. Hotjar is a very creepy but awesome tool. You can create essentially heat maps on your website, and it's going to show you where people scroll, where their mouse hovers, things that folks click on, ice cold parts of your page where folks never click or scroll to. how deep people scroll, what question within a form folks abandon the form. So for me, I had a contact form on my website for hiring me to speak at conferences, and it had about 7 questions, and Hotjar helped me see that people kept abandoning my form after the 4th question. And when I removed that question, I still was getting good leads, but people were actually completing the form instead of abandoning it. So it's going to help you uncover that. And then if you go through everything that we talk about today and you're like, okay, I'm ready for like the AP class or like the grad school level homework on the SEO front, Moz is going to be the tool for you. So Moz helps you just understand the deeper end of SEO much more than we'll get into today. But basically, if you're excelling at the things that we talked about today, Moz is going to guide you through going deeper. So talking about SEO, we're going to go through a few technical things and then a few non-technical things to think about. So first up is indexing. So if you've ever heard of a no-follow tag on a website page, a no-follow tag is a form of indexing. So no-follow or no index basically tells Google and the other search platforms, hey, don't surface this page in search results, like hide this page. And then follow or index, which is the default, says, hey, index this page in search results. So a good example of when to use no follow or no index is on your pricing pages, because that's probably not a great entry into your website. So by no follow, no indexing that page, you're forcing folks to enter your website through a more preferable page, like a home page or a client gallery or something like that. You also, if you host your onboarding guide or your client portal or anything that's like post booking on your website, you'll want to index those no follow as well. So if you're in Yoast, you'll simply just change the drop down and not have it show in search results. If you're on Squarespace or any of the other website platforms, you can Google Squarespace no index code or Weebly no index code, and there will be a help article from Squarespace or Weebly, etc., to tell you what that is, and pop it in the header, which would be in the settings of the pages that you don't want to surface in search results, and it'll help hide those pages from search. So then a sitemap is going to be a map or a list of all of the indexed URLs. So any URL that you haven't added no index or no follow to will show up in here. If you'll see in the slides when I send them, this looks like a messy bit of code, but it's actually a map that's used by the search engines to help the search engines understand kind of the layout of your website. This page on your website, you can see it's usually / sitemap.html or sitemap.xml. Again, great resource if you don't know what your sitemap is. Google Squarespace sitemap URL or Weebly sitemap URL, and it's going to tell you the exact page slug, so everything after the .com, for your sitemap. And then you can get this submitted to Google Search Console. When you create an account in Google Search Console, you just use your Gmail or your G Suite account. The first thing that it's going to ask you to do is to submit this. So by Googling Squarespace, WordPress, whatever, sitemap URL, grabbing yours and popping it in Google Search Console, that's basically going to give you a foundation of all of the SEO stuff to fix. So think of Google Search Console as like the teacher who's grading your paper, and the results that come out are going to help guide you in what SEO decisions to make. So next up is mobile friendliness. A few key stats here. So last year, 58% of site visits were on mobile, and 69% of smartphone users say that they are more likely to buy from companies with easy-to-use mobile sites. And that's great if you're e-commerce, but Like, what if you're not selling anything on your website? Does mobile friendliness still matter? And the answer is yes. Google and other search engines are deprioritizing non-mobile friendly websites in search results. So if your website takes longer than 5 seconds to load on a 3G or 4G connection, it's going to be deprioritized in search results. So how do I check this? So you go to testmysite.thinkwithgoogle.com, and it's going to take you to this page. You pop in literally any URL. Jenna Kutcher is my favorite example, so we're just going to use jennakutcher.com. And it goes through and tests all of the different pieces related to mobile site speed. You're going to see a dashboard once it's complete here in a second, but it's also going to give you a downloadable PDF. So if you have a web developer or someone on your team who manages your website, you can send them the downloadable PDF, and it's basically giving them homework on what to do to make your site faster. If you're doing it yourself with a little bit of Googling to check terms and whatever, you'll see. So this isn't terrible. Your mobile site speed is 1.9 seconds in the United States on 4G networks. So basically this is 2 seconds. It's lower than the recommended 5, but there is still a possibility that folks might still abandon her page, because if you've ever sat and gone 1,000 to 1,000, that is a long time for a website to load. So you can check all of that information. It's going to give you benchmarks. You can check your competitors to see how fast their websites load. You can also type in your monthly visitors and what % of your visitors become leads, what your order value is, to basically calculate the dollars that you're losing by having a slow website. There's a lot of data that you can get. It also gives you an opportunity to plug in specific pages. So if you know you have a really image heavy page, like if you're a photographer, your gallery page is going to be obscenely heavy with images, you can pop that link in here and it'll give you advice on how to speed it up. So on Jenna's homepage, she has a lot of heavy JavaScript. She has some issues with her CSS that's blocking text from loading. Her images aren't encoded. And then you can generate a report to see all the recommended fixes. So mobile site speed, applicable to everyone across the board, and you can use that website to check it out. Next up is title tags. So if you go to a website and you see the text up here, that's what a title tag is. So when you hover over a page, there's usually a formula. It's usually page title and then colon or % or something else, and then a description. And if you've never changed the description, it's likely something generic. But if you have changed the description, like in my case, my description is always page title, so in this case, SEO guide, and then it says marketing strategist, digital nomad, public speaker. It says what I do. That basically is the hook. So when you Google someone or you're on someone's website, that language after the vertical pipe that you're seeing is giving you additional street cred in the SEO world, reaffirming that yes, these are the things that you should be surfacing for. You can also have this be a formula to show up across all pages or be just page by page. So if you hop into Squarespace as an example, and I'm going to use Squarespace because that's the website platform that I'm on, and you hop into your website, there's an entire SEO menu that lets you control all of these things. So hopping in here on the left-hand side, there's like a whole SEO and marketing. I went to the wrong spot. Come on. There's a whole marketing menu, and then under marketing is SEO. And then within SEO, you see all of these different pieces. So SEO title format, I have %S, which in Squarespace speak is page title. And then this but I could also do %S and then also like percent and then the category. So if I have an index page, I could do specific page, index page, and then a description. There's tons of options, and all websites let you control this. It's basically like a opportunity to keyword stuff, plus an opportunity to hook people, plus an opportunity to boost your search results, all in one little go. Next up is meta descriptions. This is probably the one that you've most likely heard of. Meta descriptions are for conversions. So basically, if you're doing any kind of paid advertising or any kind of advertising that would eventually drive someone to search for you, so even like awareness advertising about your business, meta descriptions help convert better. So here, when you search for delta.com, the result headline says airline tickets and flights. Well, duh. But then this meta description is the reason to choose Delta. Delta is a leader in domestic and international travel and offers flights to over 300 destinations in 60 countries. Dang, like if I'm not airline loyal, that's a really good go, and I'm gonna click that. It's basically a brief description of what's on the page and a call to action to encourage visitors. Super simple. Alt text. So you've probably heard about alt text, that you should be changing your alt text, that it has a lot of potential. Alt text originated for Braille readers. So blind folks that were on the internet used Braille readers to take all of the images on a website, transcribe them to text, and then spit it out on the reader so that they could read what was on the website. So it originally was meant to be used to describe an image. You'll see some folks on Instagram will post a photo, and then underneath it's like image description, cute boy handing cute girl flowers while riding bikes in Amsterdam. So that gives me like a little bit more context about what's in the image. But alt text can also have SEO benefits because it can also help with keywords and with driving relevance. So when you're adding alt text, in this case, in this example, I'm showing a photo of Koval whiskey and Jenny's ice cream. If I was labeling these descriptively, I would label this image bottles of Koval whiskey and pints of Jenny's ice cream. But what I could do to make it relevant to my business is Koval Distillery and Jenny's ice cream, comma, 2 brands that market through passionate storytelling. So it still tells what's in the image, but it also drives relevancy to what's on my website, because I don't want to start having people who are searching for Koval whiskey landing on my website because I don't sell whiskey. Headings. This is probably the one that you're most familiar with next to meta descriptions. When you're building a website, you can use H1, H2. Some websites allow as deep as H6. And a lot of times we use these stylistically to allow for different text styles, to allow for bold. But these are also the like table of contents and outline for your website. So it's important to only use one H1 or the biggest, boldest text per page, 2 to 3 H2s, 3 to 4 H3s, and so on. So basically the number after the H indicates approximately how many times you should use it maximum on a web page, because basically these are the things that are going to get indexed first before the body text. Search engines will scan these header tags first. So this actually talks relevance to your website. We'll pause here for questions on the technical stuff, and then I'll go through a couple off-page SEO things, and then we'll open it up for that Q&A. And I'll just wait like a minute or two in case folks are typing questions.
I have a question actually regarding, I'm using Webflow.
Mm-hmm.
Is that similar, or do I have to then go into the actual code in order to, find the meta description in the title, since it's obviously not as organized as Squarespace?
Yeah, so if you're using like a coding language to develop your website instead of a visual builder, you should be using H1, H2, H3, etc. throughout your coding to identify those different font styles. So keep those in mind. But then the meta description and stuff should be detailed in the like head file. That's a whole separate conversation, but essentially when you're completing the packaged files, and I'm not a coder, so I'm telling my limited knowledge here, but when you're packaging all of those files, typically all of the SEO information about a page is in the head section or the head file.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And then question, is the title or heading in the body of, let's say, a blog post more important? So the title of a page or blog post is always going to be most important. And then the headings throughout the page or the blog post are what's going to get scanned second. So hypothetically speaking, let's say I'm writing a blog post on how Jenny's Ice Cream does marketing. The title of the blog post is going to be something like Jenny's Ice Cream does marketing. And then within it, maybe I'll talk about the Jenny story. I'm not necessarily going to want to make the Jenny story a bold header because I don't want people who are curious about Jenny's ice cream coming to my website. But what I would make a header is breaking down step-by-step the Jenny's marketing strategy, because that is relevant to my website. So it's just thinking through the topics that you're giving that prestigious header space to. All right, feel free to keep dropping. Oh, go ahead. Wait, can you give another example of a title in H1? Yes. So another example of a title in H1 would be, title would be Best Chicago Brunch Spots. And then the H1 might be, H1 essentially becomes subtitle because the title is created in the title section of the blog post. H1 would then become breaking down the best places to eat brunch in River North in Chicago. Basically, your H1 becomes your thesis if you've ever written a scientific paper. It's that most important piece of information. And then Michelle, what's the suggested length of an H1? In a dream world, no longer than 70 characters, because that's what Google and other search engines start to clip text at in search results, and then you get that ... So ideally no longer than 70 characters, but I'm not going to shoot the messenger if it's longer than that. Okay, feel free to keep dropping questions. We're going to go to off-page SEO. This one's a little bit shorter, only 3 things to cover here. First up is domain authority. So this is where we're going to use Neil Patel's backlinks tool. And I'm going to demo domain authority and backlinks live instead of using these slides since we're on a webinar. So if you go to neilpatel.com/backlinks, you're going to land on this page and you're going to enter the website that you care about. I'm not spinning to win right now. So I'm going to go to jennakutcher.com and search, because I always use her as an example. And so when you click search, you're going to see a few different results come up, and we care about all of them. So within the results, once this loads, there we go. Within the results, the very first thing that's going to come up is that domain score. This is domain authority. It's a score out of 100, 100 being the very best you could get, and 1 being like atrocious, just like school. For small businesses that don't have huge social followings, minimum score of 25. For bigger businesses who've had some media coverage, who are having some folks like direct traffic back to their website, have a bit of a social following, no less than 50. But in a dream world, you're north of 65. How is domain score calculated? Domain score is essentially a sum of all of this other information. Total relevancy of all of the pages on your website to the thesis of your website. So in my case, do most or all of the pages on my website cover topics about marketing? How many backlinks do I have? How many referring domains do I have? And then just what is the relevancy of the traffic that I'm getting? That all kind of comes together and creates domain score. So then what's the difference between a backlink and a referring domain? When you guest blog on someone's site, when a news source publishes an article about you and links to your website, when you comment on someone else's website and leave your website in the name website fields when you leave that comment, all of those actions create backlinks or opportunities for someone to click from someone else's website and come back to yours. So backlinks are great, and you want essentially as many as possible. And ideally, as few of them as possible are that no follow that we talked about. Referring domains is essentially how many unique domains. So you can think of referring domains as unique visitors and backlinks as total clicks, if that's helpful. So referring domains is I might have been published on Forbes.com 10 times, 10 backlinks, but that's only one referring domain because all of them came from Forbes.com. Both of these plus domain score all work together to boost your SEO. And within Neil Patel, you can check out where your backlinks are coming from. This also, so sometimes I will find press articles that I didn't know about in here. So when I type in my own website, sometimes I'll find places I was mentioned on the internet that I wasn't aware of. And that's really cool too. So then we've covered domain authority and backlinks. We'll also touch on social media. So social media has a little bit of SEO functionality as well. The only searchable field on Instagram, for example, is the name field, the username and the name field. So where possible, if your name field on your Instagram profile can be something other than your name, that can be helpful. If there's a conference organizer searching for public speakers on Instagram, it would be helpful if they could tell that you were a speaker or marketing strategist. So this field, which is the name, and this field, which is the username, are the only two searchable places on Instagram. So just think about that from an SEO perspective. And then anytime you comment on someone else's post, of course you're engaging, of course you're building a community, but your username is a backlink. You're leaving a backlink to your profile. You are subliminally inviting people to click back to your website. So something to be aware of. Don't just engage for the sake of engaging, building a community, and of course driving followers and all of those Instagram goals that we have, but also think about engaging for the purpose of backlinks and encouraging curious people to come back to your website. So that covers the very quick 34-minute basics of SEO. I'll take questions on off page, and then we'll go into that list of questions that folks submitted when you all registered. Good question. Tips to get backlinks. So you want to get backlinks from websites with better domain authority than yours. So guest blogging on other folks' websites is not a bad idea. But what I do before I pitch a guest blog opportunity is I will come here and search that website so I know what their domain score is. It's kind of like they say that if you're friends with people who make more money than you, eventually you'll make more money too. Like you're the sum of the 5 people you associate with. Similar theory on backlinks. So check out that. I think there's a post in one of the Dreamers Doers groups with like over 2,000 guest blog opportunities. Check out that spreadsheet and then check the domain score. Okay, so how do I know what the best keywords are for my business? Google Ads actually still has the keyword planner, if that's what you're asking, Evelyn. I use it all the time. So I check Google Ads to figure out, and again, you can do this without having a paid Google Ads account. So even if you're not running Google Ads, you can use Keyword Planner. So if you log into Google Ads, if I can remember my password, and then choose your account if you have multiple accounts that are linked, and then head under Tools, Planning, and then Keyword Planner, you'll see the Keyword Planner. And you can do keyword planning by website, so you can pop in your website and see what Google thinks are good keywords for that website, or you can do it by topic. This is let me switch. You can't do it in a Google Ads Express account. So if you have a Google Ads Express account, which is like the super basic one, you can't do it. So go into ads.google.com. This is taking a second. I'm sorry. We're taking a lot of time, but I want to make sure that everyone is aware how to use this because I think it's a good question. And then the second half of your question is, how do I find out what people are typing in to find my stuff? That you figure out in Google Analytics. Check your search terms, like what are folks actually entering in to find your website. And then also check the keywords that that people are searching as well. All of that is available in Google Analytics if you have that linked to your website. I don't want this. So when you come to Keyword Planner, you'll get 2 options: discover new keywords or get search volume. So I start here and I will type in a website. We're really gonna continue with this Jenna Kutcher example here. And then when you type in a website, it's going to scan the website copy and give keywords. Now, not all of these are going to be relevant, and there's going to be thousands. And then what I do is I start to select the ones that are good, and I add them to a plan. And then I keep searching with competitor websites. So like a competitor of Jenna Kutcher is going to be Jasmine Star. I think her website is jasminestar.com. And I'll get results for Jasmine's website as well. And then, so I'm going to add all of these to my plan. And then once I have added them to my plan, I go into Keyword Planner and I get search volume and forecasts. So you can have your plan come in and your keywords will get entered, and it's going to tell you how much folks search for these words. I'm really hungry, so for spaghetti, historical is what we want. Forecast is going to be if you run an ad campaign. So for spaghetti, that word gets searched 100,000 to 1 million times a month, and the competition there is low. So spaghetti, if that is relevant to my business, is going to be a great keyword to have on my website. So that was a very long answer to your question, Evelyn, but I hope that was helpful. Okay, so then going into the list of questions that you guys had submitted. SEO on Squarespace, I see a few different questions that were posted about specific website SEO. So if you head to here, danniefountain.com/SEO guide. It's going to give you this checklist. And at the bottom of the checklist, I'm working on adding specific resources by website platform on how to manage your SEO. So hopefully that will cover those. Where do you even start with SEO? Hopefully this has been a good baseline. I want to see how good my existing SEO is. I would start with a lot of these. Domain authority and number of backlinks are going to be good metrics, as well as seeing an overall trend of your website traffic slowly increasing month over month over month over month. Those are baselines that I look at. How to research keywords, how to find keywords. We covered those very loosely. Oh, differences in SEO across platforms. This is a good question. So I think Squarespace and Weebly and Wix get a little bit of shit for being bad for SEO, and WordPress has kind of been always known as the SEO go-to. I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't matter what website platform you're using, or even if you're custom coding something on a internally developed website management platform, you can do SEO well by following the on-page SEO tips and the off-page SEO tips. You are not holding yourself back by choosing one platform or over another. You are not getting some magical SEO boost by using WordPress. The only bonus with WordPress is that there is the Yoast plugin, but frankly, you can do everything I've talked about on any platform. Yeah, the link for the checklist is just danniefountain.com/SEO-guide. So I think that covers most of the questions that got dropped in your registration forms. We have about, well, just shy of 20-ish minutes left. I'm just going to open it up now. Feel free to ask questions, and I'll hang out until we either get everyone's questions answered or run out of time. Mariana, yes, I'll eventually be adding Shopify to this checklist. I am just looking for some really good resources, frankly. There are a couple good articles over here from Opt-in Monster and SEMrush, but I'm not familiar enough with Shopify yet to give good advice, but these articles are a good start. Ray, we're just starting our blog and currently it's on Medium. How do we make sure the blog titles and content connect with SEO on our website? Or is that not a thing? That's difficult. So if you're using a subdomain or a different platform to host your blog than your website, you're going to lose some of those benefits. So in this case, since your blog is on Medium and your website is on whatever platform you've built your website on, there isn't like cross-pollination. However, you can work on both places separately to rank for the same keywords. So that way when someone searches Ray or whatever your business is or relevant keywords, both places would show up in the search results. So Google does dock you for cross-posting in terms of relevancy. The code that you can add so this doesn't happen would be no follow. So if you're cross-posting content, then yes, I would tag everything but the original page no follow, kind of like we were discussing earlier. Google has changed their algorithm recently to favor quality of content over quantity. It's still quality plus quantity, but Google uses relevancy when they mean quality. And yes, relevancy is becoming more important than quantity, because if the relevancy is low, Google assumes it's a bit of a bait and switch. So yes to that question. Yeah, the Medium comment also applies to LinkedIn posts. Basically, if you have your business website on platform A, and then you have your blog on platform B, you're not getting the benefit of having you're not getting the same benefit from a blog that you would be getting if your blog was also on platform A. Anytime. You guys are so nice. Oh, podcast show notes for SEO. This is a good one. So I have a podcast, and we don't publish full text transcriptions of the podcast on our website with the episodes, but we do transcribe the episodes so that they're accessible for folks to listen to. So when we publish an episode, we go through, and you're, depending on where you're publishing, but we fill out the podcast settings really in depth. And then depending on the episode, we do bulleted insights. So show highlights, we do a bio of the guest, etc. Jenna Kutcher actually just launched this course called the Podcast Lab. And one of the things she talks about in this course is podcast SEO. So it might be something good to check out if that's a concern. The syllabus is in here somewhere, but she goes deep into podcast show note SEO. But generally speaking, if you're doing show highlights and including bios, then you'll be good to go. Going to be migrating current site from Wix to Shopify. I'm going to do blog posts within Shopify as well. So when you migrate the site, make sure you're transferring the domains properly. So basically, there are 301 directs and 401 redirects. Just make sure when you're transferring, you do that thoroughly so that you're not getting errors. And then blogging within Shopify as well, anything to know? Essentially, there shouldn't be anything different from blogging versus what's on your site's pages. All the content should be relevant, all the content should be high quality, and all of the content should speak to your audience. The keyword and SEO strategies are going to apply across the board. All right, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I can take a few more questions if anyone has any more questions. Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out. I'll let Hannah do any wrap up. And feel free to comment on the office hours post for this in the offers group, and I can tackle more questions there. Besides Moz, there are a few other competitors of Moz. There's SEMrush, there's Opt-in Monster. There are a few others. Moz is just the one that I lean on the most.
Okay. Yeah, if there's no other questions. Oh, looks like. Oh, Michelle was asking for a copy of the deck after, which it sounds like you'll be providing.
Yeah, I'll comment on the original office hours post with a link to the deck.
Perfect. And also, the call is recorded, and I'll post it as an offer. And then we can also include it there as well to just have everything all together. But thank you so much for diving into all this. There was so much amazing, game-changing information here.
Of course. I'm glad it was helpful.
So if anyone is able to stick around for the next few minutes, I would love to do a quick round of introductions just to hear what everyone's working on and just so we can get to know each other a little bit better. Let's see.
I'm actually gonna run away. I have another call in 10 minutes.
Oh, no worries.
But
no worries.
have so much fun, everyone.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for tuning in. This was really fun.
Awesome. Bye.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks, Danny.